Inside corner time on a Friday. Jon Heyman, you're on the hot seat. Get ready.
Okay.
Buyers and sellers, because it's almost June, so we focus on the draft, and then right after that, we focus on the trade deadline. And I don't know if you watched our show a week and a half ago or something when D-Row traded every single national on the roster. What's the solution in D.C.?
I did see that. Yes, very good. Had some
ratings,
very interesting trades. Very interesting. If the Nats are a seller, and I think they'd be more likely to be a seller than a buyer at this point. They are very close to that luxury tax threshold. So if they're buying, they're not buying much. 24 and 32 right now. I think they'll probably be a seller, and I wouldn't bank on it for sure. But if they are, very interesting with Max Scherzer there, obviously Doolittle, fantastic reliever, Rendon, who's a free agent after the year, Dozier, free agent after the year, Kendrick having a nice year, so a lot of possibilities there. Scherzer and Rendon and Doolittle, to me, are the three most interesting.
So no untouchables there.
Well, we'll see. I mean, you never know. I mean, I don't think Strasburg is going to be traded. I think D-Row asked me that once before. He's got a $45 million salary in that last year, so I think that's kind of a poison pill there. So I don't think he'll be dealt. Ultimately, it's a tough decision with Scherzer, but they did try to trade Harper briefly last year before deciding to hold on to him. So they'll consider it, I think.
I mean, I think they got to consider everything. I really do. I think the Phillies are that good. I think the Braves have what Dan O'Dow refers to as aircraft carriers. I mean, you got Soroka and Acuna and Kyle Wright coming, and Austin Riley's burst on the scene. I mean, they're going nowhere, so they're only going to get better. I think you would hate for Max Scherzer. That's what you want. That's who you
Everything you want.
Right? So
yeah, one of the best free agent signings ever.
Overheard in the meeting this morning, John, Twins will run away with Central. Do you think that's the case? And if so, what happens with the Indians? Because they've already said with Francisco Lindor, enjoy him now, you're not going to have him for the future.
Yeah, I do think that the Twins are going to run away with it. At this point, it's easy to predict. I did think they were going to win that division, having seen them in spring training. That offense is just fantastic. So I think they're the best team in that division. Cleveland's been hit by some injuries. I'm not sure that they would trade Lindor. That certainly is the most interesting guy who could potentially be dealt. Obviously, Kluber has to get healthy. That's another interesting one. And Bauer has been a guy who's been on the block, fantastic talent. So I could see him being traded very easily. Brad Hand certainly having another excellent year. So they've got some interesting pieces there. I think trading Lindor would be tough, though, but I could see Bauer going.
You want Lindor? What are you going to give me? Can you imagine?
Everything.
Everything.
Just looking at those four guys on that board, that's a demo waiting to happen.
That's going to come in the next couple weeks.
I'm not giving up on Cleveland per se yet. I mean, you get Kluber back,
right.
Clevenger. It's still early. You can make a run, but I mean, Rocco Baldelli's got those boys flying. It's going to be him fighting Aaron Boone, Kevin Cash for Manager of the Year.
How much fun. We were talking about the NL East earlier, 27 wins for the Mets, and we had the hypothesis that this was going to be a 4-team race, right, for the foreseeable future. What is the future in Queens?
Yeah, I don't see them as a seller. If you're going to ask me buyer or seller, I don't see it. Obviously, they had big predictions, big expectations at the beginning of the year. They thought they were the team to beat, said that out loud. Obviously, it's not been a disastrous start, but it's not been good by any stretch of the imagination. I see them as a buyer, though, based on what their expectations are and were and still are.
I feel strongly about the Mets that Brody can't sell. I think he won the interview process because he didn't come in and say that, because he had a plan to make them relevant in the NL East. I don't personally think it's gonna work. I think the Phillies are just that good, and I think the Atlanta Braves, especially if Syndergaard, watching him the other night, if he doesn't get his slider, because they've been talking about he just hasn't been able to get the feel for the slider. If he doesn't get that pitch,
right,
he becomes, his numbers say he becomes very hittable, even with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball.
But on the other hand, the potential is there.
Absolutely.
We've seen it from Syndergaard before. Obviously, DeGrom, the best pitcher in the league last year. Wheeler was fantastic the last 2 months of last year. Matz is getting better. He looks like he's finally coming in to his own. So the potential is there. I can see why they had high expectations.
Yeah.
I had them in second, frankly. And I can see why they wouldn't give up. But I see your side of it all.
You're saying Brody's on the hook for the additions?
No, what I'm saying is to expect the Mets to sell at the deadline, I think would be foolish, because I feel like Brodie Van Wagenen won the GM position interview process because he came in with a plan of, I'm not going that route.
So who would they target?
Well, I think they would look at bullpen. That's been the big problem so far. I think Diaz is going to be okay. He had a very bad outing, but Familia has not been great. They're certainly weak in the left-handed department. So a lefty who's really good, like Hand, Doolittle. Diekman's doing well for Kansas City, and he's got pretty good stuff, too. So I think any of them could help them. Colomé is another guy. Shane Green is another guy who could help them. They need to fortify that bullpen if they're going to make a run for it.
Okay, let's get positive because I'm depressing myself. The other day you said Chris Woodward has them buying in Texas. Over 500 at this point. You said, well, what if they, I don't know, sell? I was thinking buyers. So what's the future in Texas, no?
The Astros put everybody on blast in that division.
Yeah, it's tough. I think they're in a tough spot. Oakland's pretty good, too.
Yeah.
I give them credit. I think Chris Woodward's done a fantastic job. I think they picked the
Sotheby's
right guy. But I think if the opportunity is there, they may do a little selling. You might say buying for the future more than selling, if you want to put it positively. You know, I don't think they have a ton of pieces that they're going to want to sell, though. I mean, I see Hunter Pence up there.
John.
He's been spectacular to this point. Cabrera was the guy who was sold last year, an offensive piece. Forsythe has done a nice job. I would look at maybe Shin-Soo Choo, who's having a terrific year, and it's got a big salary. That would be somebody I'd look at. I know there's been a lot of speculation about Mike Minor. I think they want to extend him. But, you know, I'm sure the speculation will continue because he was an excellent free agent signing.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I mean, everyone's going to call John Daniels about Mike Minor, and rightfully so. But you're going into a new ballpark next year. Gallo's coming into his own. Mazzara's going to figure it out. You got Elvis Andrus.
Okay.
Odor is kind of, you're still buying his jersey in the team store. But you need someone to take the bump. And he's been dominant in the AL.
Excellent.
Like, so
Excellent.
At a bargain price.
Right, and it was a bargain price because he came in as maybe a starter. Now he's clearly an excellent starter. So his value is certainly shot up, but tough to trade him. I'm with you.
How do the Diamondbacks, John, handle the next couple of months? And does it depend on what they do?
Sure, it depends. I think they came in figuring they were a likely seller. I think they also thought that they were better than other people thought, and it appears that they are. I think they made a lot of good small, you might say small, they were big name purchases. Holland, Adam Jones, they've done terrific for them. But I would say more likely that they would sell than buy, because I think that was kind of their MO coming in, thinking that they might take a little bit of a step back this year. Obviously, Zach Greinke would be a huge piece, a guy who makes over $30 million a year, but still performing, so you could trade him. Robbie Ray would be a big piece, not making over $30 million, very talented left-handed pitcher. We've got Bradley, we've got Dyson, but I look at Holland as a guy who would have big value. A relief pitcher having that kind of a season. Adam Jones has done well, not at a big price. Peralta, potentially. They've got a lot of interesting pieces on that team, and that's probably why they've beaten at least our expectations. Not a bad team, but probably not going to beat the Dodgers.
I feel like we solved the world's problems. How do you think we
I like
did?
that segment.
Me
I could
too.
do this all day.
We buying or selling on our Central people?
Buying.
Yes.
Buying.